All right. It's tent pole hump day here on Ship Chasing's FFPC Playoff Challenge Week. This is an event we are excited for, a tradition that I believe, truly began for the first time last year, but it is Boomer Opto night here. It is a fundamental part of any sharp player's process as they build lineups for this contest. And there's no one else that could do this episode with us other than our Rotoviz brethren, Blair, Andrews, and Hasan. How are we doing, guys?
Doing great.
Living the dream, man.
Hasan, I mean, how hard at work have you been on this optimizer, getting the model up and running? I heard you got a new CPU just to handle all the kind of processing needed for this.
Yeah, we went out and we back tested, recalibrated like pretty much every little little algo that we got running here. A lot of boots on the ground serving at the Golden Corral, the Sizzler, the Ponderosa.
You've been doing market research with your pen and paper out there?
Oh, you know it, man. Had to hire some unpaid interns. We did the whole 9 yards, man.
As I see, picture Hasan like hiding behind something at the Cracker Barrel. Like, did someone just say Zeke? I think they did. Blair, what have you been doing here preparing for FFPC Playoff Week? I know you have a fresh article up on Rotoviz today as well.
I do. I have an article up. I've been running some models in the screener, trying to get some ideas. Trying to figure out these boomers.
There you go. Ben Gretsch, Pat Crane. I always come back to about 100 messages in our group chat here. You guys are deep in the weeds. How's it going?
It's going good. I just woke up from a nap and I came back to 100, and now I'm like itching to read that. But it's actually like I'm pretty stoked when I'm away.
Ben, some of those were for you. I there was Ben is doing a bit where like I'll tell the story of a bracket, and Ben's like, "Oh, it's story time. I'm gonna curl up with a blanket."
Well, you put me. I told you I curled up with my warm blanket on your last story time. You put me to sleep, man. I took a nap. It was fantastic.
Yeah, wow. It wasn't even. I thought it was a bit.
I'm actually turning into my George McCaskey bit.
So I actually wrote a story for you that has chapters, so you can curl up with a good book tonight.
Right.
I know. Ben is a completist with the group chat where he'll go back and he'll start and he'll read every word. And I'm just like, it's lost to the sands of time. Like, sounds like you guys had fun back there, but it's like that meme that's like, I'm happy for you or I'm sorry, but I'm not reading that.
Yeah, but we're also, building strategy for the playoff contest. So I kind of want to make sure that I'm.
But Pat's writing like full-length bedtime story novels. What is this new bit, Pat? You're telling stories about the playoffs?
I told the story. So there's one bracket that I thought was really fun. That's like a Cincinnati bracket. And so I was like telling the story, like they come out flat the first game, but then they get pushed at the end and they get there. And then there's a whole, every matchup, and you're going to like it a lot.
I'm excited. Do you remember, like, Pete last year, how we were all talking about how Pat's the best at telling letting the bracket tell a story? And he just
Let me know if there's any money in this. That's what I need to figure out.
It's an incredible skill he has, though.
Yeah.
From what I can tell, there's money in it. If we get first, everything else, So let's first start though with Pat and Ben here. I feel like, we're checking in, every 24 hours. I mean, it's been almost, 28 hours since we last did FFPC content. Can you imagine? Any new thoughts forming the deeper you go down the rabbit hole here?
Well, I've just been trying to tweak the ownership on stuff and kind of seeing. I've been listening to. First of all, I didn't know Daigle was also doing 5 shows this week, but it's just in every other show. He did an NBC one. He's on with the GOAT District, so I watched both of those. If there's any other content on it, let me. Oh, ETR did a podcast that kind of touched on some of it, so I listened to that. So I'm trying to listen to any content. I know FTN had a good article on the tournament, so you guys can check that out. But any content that I can see, I'm trying to absorb just so I get a sense of like where other people are. I know Blair had an article on it. It was very good. Because I think that's going to be a key part of getting the ownership dialed in correctly. And it is interesting this year. One of the things jumping out to me is that I've had to adjust. When I first ran it, I had tight end like way higher than I thought made sense given the way people have played this historically. And then I lowered it, and now I have it higher than when I initially ran it, just because I am starting to get the sense that people are going to be comfortable playing on average, like close to 2 tight ends. Some people might play 3. Most people won't. Some people will just play 1. But I think you're going to see a lot of 2 tight end lineups this year just because of the nature of the player field, I think.
Yeah. Blair, what were some of the takeaways from your article?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of relied on Pat's spreadsheet for a lot of my ideas, so they're not going to be too novel if you've been following what he's been doing. But I think there are obviously some pretty clear chalk and some pretty obvious ways to get leverage, even though they are not necessarily comfortable. But that's kind of what we have got to balance.
Gretch, do you have any scenarios that you are like, now that you've been looking at all the different playoff scenarios, what do you think are some of the most fun ones that could play out?
Well,
I was going to say, I mean, yeah, there's definitely some fun ones. Pat is the one that needs to just tell us all some stories. You guys can see how great he is at this in a minute. But I was going to say one of the big things we're getting to now that we're on to show 3 of our 5-week gauntlet that we decided to line up. We're right in the middle of the week, right? And we're starting to get to that part where Pete, during normal DFS weeks, you'll send out the tweet where you're like the contrarian thing that's no longer contrarian. I mean, I keep seeing San Fran over Dallas, right? They have the closest line. Everyone is picking that. You're not contrarian because you picked that. You're not contrarian because you picked the Bengals through Tennessee to the conference championship. Like those are everyone's favorite upset picks in every bracket you see. And then to have not just like the favorites playing each other, it's pick your favorite NFC team, whether it's like the Rams or the Cardinals or the Niners going all the way, or maybe if you do have Dallas winning, Dallas going all the way. But like I'm seeing a lot of like KC and the Rams or KC and the Cardinals in the Super Bowl with a Niners upset and with the Bengals into the conference championship. And it's like, oh, look, I didn't pick a chalk bracket, except that's now the chalk contrarian bracket. Right. Yeah. And it's a
very fun bracket though. So I get it.
I mean, maybe we should just start to dive in here. I do feel like this year is different in that every year it seems like there's more content around the challenge than the year before. And it did feel like we were flying a little blind in previous years with some of these trying to gauge the sentiment stuff. And it does feel like this year we could have players or teams or whatever that get steam in some way or another that the field is getting confident on. And that's why I do think it's smart that Pat is hawking all this content to try to see where the tea leaves are pointing on some of this. What do you guys think?
It's also just good content. Daigle had the guys who won the 100K from the second chance contest a couple years ago. Connor Allen, Joe Piano.
Yeah, did they?
Oh wow.
What was that? Did they have any insights, like macro insights about the contest that were interesting?
Yeah, they're kind of like figure out your conviction plays. And their big conviction play that year was Raheem Mostert, who obviously he just went absolutely nuts against Green Bay, I think. And I think they also had Dalvin Cook. So they're kind of like figuring out those pivots kind of right off the bat and making big stands that way.
That was the year Mostert ran for like 300 yards, right? Against Green Bay, like just trampled them.
Yeah. A bunch of touchdowns, just went off.
And Dalvin like just put up massive numbers in the losing effort. Yeah, because he destroyed the Saints. I remember that.
So what do you think, Hasan? Do you think for revealing the Boomer Opto, revealing it by team, like starting with the Boomer fades and soft fades, or should we go by position? What do you think is more dramatic?
Whichever way you guys decide to go about it, I'm totally ambivalent. I will say Pat has also been doing a lot of the work here. I didn't know if anyone knew this, but when I was staking out the Cracker Barrel, there was another guy out there like in the gift shop, and it was Pat, just like checking people out. And he's got a really good ball. He got a really good ball here as well.
I think he just checked out with Najee Harris.
I kind of like the idea of going backwards. So we start with the two teams that the Boomers are going to hard fade. We'll work to soft fades and then work backwards to finish with quarterback. What do we think?
Sounds great.
All right, Hasan, tell me who the two teams that the Boomers don't want to touch with a 10-foot pole are.
Yeah, these two are like pretty easy. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers on the AFC side, and it's the Philadelphia Eagles on the NFC side, right? I don't know if you guys got this today, but Ben Roethlisberger made a note that they had no chance to win. I mean, this is a guy who's mentally checked out. He basically is saying that that they've got no chance. They're going to go into Arrowhead, give it their all. But I think the Steelers know that this is where their story is going to end. So I would expect people who are reverse or not being creative about this being a potential shootout would essentially be like, this is a pretty solid hard fade for us to have. Just no reason to burn a player or any player on a Ben Roethlisberger-led offense on the way out. And with the Eagles, on the other hand, you've got a fairly wonky offense that's fairly run heavy. And Miles Sanders is kind of banged up. You really can't swallow the idea of putting in a quarterback because Mo might lose, or any of the other guys, unless you're playing Dallas Goedert. So I can see that as an easy hard fade as well here.
My sources are a little bit different. Yeah, my Boomers are telling me that yes, the Eagles, but that New England is actually the other hard fade.
New England is the other hard fade. That is a really interesting one.
I thought you were going to say something else.
So Pat, make the case on for the Patriots over. You said over the Eagles.
Patriots over the Eagles. No, over the Steelers.
Okay.
The Eagles will be a hard fade, but the Steelers will be played in the Boomer Opto because way more fun to play a Steeler. You've got a couple different options. You can play Najee Harris, who's going to be like the 105. Get him in the lineup. Play for a nice bunch of checkdowns. Roethlisberger's just talking about how much fun they're going to have out there. Get Najee involved. Also, Deontay Johnson should get some ownership. And the Patriots are just no fun to play. And we'll get to it later, but I think the quarterback selection is going to make it pretty appealing to fade New England. So just no fun to play New England.
I agree with that take because the things that people get excited about on the Patriots is one, the running game, and two, the defense. And they don't want to play a running game in a negative game script that they project them to lose. And they don't want to play a defense against a high scoring offense. So to me, I can see people kind of scratching the Patriots off. Are you okay with this tweak, Hasan?
I think it makes complete sense. I guess I was just thinking of it from the perspective of that, like Kansas City tends to limit a lot of offensive performances. But yeah, I can see people like just sort of doing exactly what Pat said, like shoving in Deontay Johnson or Najee Harris, just getting wild with it.
Yeah. All right, Hasan, now let's get to the soft fades here. Kicker and defense, and I realize you might have to, adjust a little bit from your initial draft after Pat kind of bullied you with his Patriots take here.
No,
we could do two. Can we do warring Boomer Optos? I mean, we could kind of have two forks in the road here or whatever.
Let's
good.
You know what? This is what we're gonna do. Yeah, so we're gonna have to choose your own. We're gonna start with Hasan's, and then we can start to tweak. I want the pure raw uncut Hasan right now.
Do it.
So on this side, so the two softwares I was able to get was the Patriots DST, and Daniel Carson, right? Like, think about the last time the Pats and the Bills met up this season. It was actually a win for the Pats in Buffalo. Yes, it was the greatest win game of all time, but it was, they expected to be very, very cold this weekend. We know cold doesn't really matter. We want the win, but at the same time, if the path for New England to win this game is through their defense and through the running game, right? But the defense, you kind of hedge a little bit. Josh Allen has been a little inconsistent. He's thrown a handful of picks here and there, so why not get a little bit or whatever you can out of your defensive pick here and burn them. Daniel Carson, that's an easy one. The Oakland Raiders showed absolutely no fight against the Bengals the first time around. This game total is 49.5. Kind of probably will wind up a little bit lower than people expect, going down. why not just like, burn a Raiders skill player, especially one like Carlson who's expected to catch or at least play most of the game, and there's probably gonna be a lot of field goal kicking here going on. Pat, what do your boomers say?
My boomers very much like the Daniel Carlson play. I don't know if you know, Hasan, but they just won a game that many thought were going to be a tie, but instead they had to let Carlson kick another field goal. He made it super clutch. The boomers love it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and that is the perfect thing because people want to play the Bengals. People are excited to play the Bengals. I think if the Raiders were favorites, people would be way more excited about playing Josh Jacobs. But because everyone's projecting them to lose, it's kind of the Damian
Waller
Harris
were healthy.
thing. True, if Waller were healthy. But there's just not enough from Jacobs, Waller, and Renfro to kind of separate. And so people are just like, let's just use Daniel, the GOAT Carlson at kicker.
Fun stat on Carlson. They've won. The Raiders have gone 5-5 since their Week 8 bye. They've won 4 in a row. I believe 4 of their 5 wins were on final play Daniel Carlson field goals. Yep, I just confirmed that. 2 were in regulation, 2 were in overtime. 4 of their 5 wins since Week 8 have been last-second game winners.
The funny thing about that is it's like just a terrible outcome if you select Carlson and he wins with a game winner.
Yeah, it's terrible.
You don't want it.
Are there any other Pat, who did you have at defense then if you had Patriots as a hard fade?
Let's let Hasan go through the rest, then I'll show you where my tweaks are.
Okay.
Sure. Just going through the flexes starting from the top. So this is going to be, so what's interesting here, at least from this perspective, is the running back's kind of mid, but there's actually a lot of viable pass catches here. So you're going to see the most popular tight end play that I've got here from the Cardinals is Zach Ertz, right? Like that is just like your pure raw uncut. You don't really want to mess around a little bit with Christian Kirk. You don't really want to mess around with AJ Green. If this is expected to be in an L for the Cards, then you want Zach Ertz, the guy who's getting a lot of those shallow route dump off targets. And I don't know if you guys know this, but it's 1.5 points for each reception for a tight end in FFPC.
Oh, well, it changes everything.
It really does. Like if you get out there on Twitter and you post about playing in FFPC and you don't hear that, man, I mean, you have the right people following you.
No, that definitely makes sense. People do forget here. I mean, I do think there are different scenarios.
The funny thing is that people do actually forget, Pete, because you don't have a tight end. You don't have a tight end in this lineup.
Shit!
You don't have a tight end spot in this lineup, or a fourth flex.
I
think that's accurate for the Boomer Opto, though.
The Boomer Opto,
The Boomer Opto
play by
only
their
gets
own
10
rules.
lineup spots.
The Boomer Opto would play 3 flexes if allowed.
I just want someone to appreciate my artistic decision to go with Comic Sans font.
I
I
noticed.
just get some record. Thank
And
you.
all caps. That was a great choice.
It was
Very
and this-
subtle. Would have went under the radar in a subtle good way, but now that you've referenced it,
I had to pull myself out of the hole for forgetting half the starting lineup.
It's just so good that you're doing a bit about how people forget. Meanwhile, you don't have a tight end in the lineup.
In my old age, starting to forget some of these settings. I was gonna say, could you, if we got like news, let's just say tonight, hypothetically, they say Chase Edmonds isn't gonna play. You think this swings to James Conner?
I do. I think it changes. I think it changes a bunch of stuff.
It changes a lot then.
It swings to James Conner. I think you get more Gronk in the tournament. I think you get probably a little less Mixon. I think you get a little less Zeke. Like just getting Connor, because running back's not that strong. You probably get a little less Najee. All the running backs probably come down a hair, but I also think it could really mean that Damian Harris doesn't get played like at all. Like people, because people aren't going to feel as good about fading the Cardinals. Which I'll just say that was so from the fades or through this point. I don't have Zach Ertz. I have a Cardinals D because I think fading the Cardinals is going to be very popular. It's no fun. I mean, the Boomers do like Zach Ertz because he's their age, but the Cardinals in general are just not very fun to click. Christian Kirk's not going to be that popular, and we don't really have Connor as an option right now. But that would definitely change it if Chase Edmonds were to get ruled out.
Yeah. I agree with everything Pat said. I will say I went back and just sort of checked out how these teams played the last time. Both running backs, like the both times they played, like Connor put up 2 TDs, I believe, and he was like one of the engines of success. The first time they won, and the second time also in kind of in a losing effort. So it really changes quite a bit if Edmonds is out.
Hasan, let's hit us with a flex here.
Yeah, so this is probably the just gonna just say it, Travis Kelce. Tyreek suffered some kind of heel injury in week 18. People aren't going to be burning this on Mahomes because they don't want to. There's no way you're going to get these guys to click on any of the running backs from KC, and there's no way you're going to get people comfortable to click on Byron Pringle or Mecole Hardman or anything else, right? So people are just going to go with who they know, which is Travis Kelce. I noticed that like Pat had him catching a significant chunk of ownership, and I do.
That's
agree
come
with
up throughout the week because, I thought maybe Mahomes would be fairly chalky, but the Gochester guys were talking about how the Hill concerns, will bring down Mahomes' ownership. I think they're right about that.
They are.
So I think it just kind of pushes like Kelce's. You can't really go wrong with Kelce, so no. I think he'll just catch a lot.
And what was he? What we talked about it, I think yesterday. But what was his percentage last year?
Believe like 65%, right around there. I could pull it up.
And obviously think he's not coming off of the season he was last year, but just like you said, just enough uncertainty with Tyreek and just enough kind of other tight ends not separating from the field. I was thinking about today how if Mark Andrews was in here, how he would have been just like the total chalk play.
Oh my God.
Oh God, yeah.
But I'm just guessing in people's head, Travis Kelce is still the one tight end who feels like he can really separate there.
And I have him at 60%. He was at 66% last year. So I do have him a little bit lower. Just partly because of what you said about him not coming off as big of a season. And I do think Mahomes will be more popular than he was last year. He was only 16% last year. He has to be more popular than that, I think, because you get the 4th game. And, if he just goes off, if he runs in a couple touchdowns and spreads it out, because that's the kind of the other side of this Tyreek thing. It's like, well, maybe he could, throw a couple touchdowns to Hardman and Pringle and Demarcus Robinson, whatever. Then, Mahomes, if he gets the Super Bowl, is probably going to be in the optimal.
Right. Or you need the insane Tyreek Hill blow up game in the Super Bowl. Because it's like unlikely he's going to outscore Mahomes over 4 games. But if he gets his monster game and double points, then he could just run away with it.
For sure, yeah.
All right. Who's up next, Hasan?
So initially I had tight end Rob Gronkowski here, but just knowing that he came off of IR and he's practicing, I believe, in full is probably going to be Leonard Fournette, right? Like since Fournette last played, since he went on IR, there's been a couple of major shakeups in the Buccaneers' receiving core. Chris Godwin tore his ACL. Antonio Brown retired. So you've got suddenly and even before those 2 events, Fournette was averaging like 7.5 targets per game. So you can see people pushing themselves to like a median target projection of like 9, and you can see like a 12 to 13 target game, and so people feel pretty comfortable putting in Leonard Fournette because you don't have to waste a quarterback spot on Brady, and it really opens up everybody else.
I think Fournette's very easy to click because he's not game script dependent. So you can say like, they're going to win round 1, right? So plug him in, get the running back points there. But then in round 2, like, what am I even really saying? I'm saying, I don't know. Maybe they win, maybe they don't. Doesn't really matter. I get touchdowns. If they win, I get a bunch of dump off passes. If they're behind, you feel insulated. I think
you get that 18 points.
Yeah, he's projecting awesome. I don't think we'll get the full versus limited. I could be wrong about that, but he's still technically on IR. Yeah. So he's designated to return. They're not gonna have him on the injury report. So I don't think we'll be able to know if he's practicing in full or whatnot, which maybe keeps him a little more tame than if he was full practice all week. But I still think he'll be like, there'll be a Friday thing from Arians that's like, oh yeah, he's good to go, look great, and people will jam him.
And that'll be it.
the other thing about him too is like, we're all concerned with the passing game, losing those weapons. They looked awful in week 18. Leonard Fournette isn't around, for that game. He doesn't have the stench of that version of the Bucs. Now you have Rojo out, you have Leonard Fournette coming back. I think people will be like, this is how I want to play the Bucs.
Rojo also doubtful for this week.
Yeah.
It's like Le'Veon Bell and Keyshawn Vaughn were back. Giovanni Bernard is also designated to return, but I don't think people will care about that. And they really shouldn't care about it. I don't think so. I think Fournette's a strong play, but I think ultimately it'll probably get swung a little bit more to Fournette than Gronk compared to what would be optimal is my feel on it. Although who knows? Gronk's also like a very strong play and someone that the Boomers typically do like. So I could be open that.
Yeah, that was tough, right? Like Pat, were you like struggling? Because I went back and forth between these two. Like these are the two Bucs basically, Gronk or LF. Like there's like Evans is not catching. Like there's no way I can see people playing him.
Yeah, this is an easy pivot, and I think like for example, if you get Connor, and you're taking because Connor's coming from Ertz, so it's like, would you rather have an Edmonds got declared out Connor with Gronk? You could play both of them with the flexes. You could play both Fournette and Connor, but I think the fact that Connor would help open up Gronk and sort of steal directly from a tight end would definitely push people more to Gronk than they are now.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Third flex.
For the Niners, this one's really, really easy. Drico actually mentioned this, but it's just, it's Deebo Samuel. Drico. It's the same thing. Same thing. Sorry, I have an accent. I'm not from here.
Uh-oh. Did you just start a war with Ireland now too?
Ireland.
No. I like Ireland.
You just don't.
They should just pronounce their words like us. Is that
yeah? It's just a pronunciation thing. Yeah, I mean, this one's easy, right? Like he does it all. Like what doesn't he do? Wide receiver, running back, quarterback. He just doesn't get the 1.5 for if he plays tight end, right? So really, really hard to not have Deebo here. There's just Pat. Like, do you have it at like 80%, like 80% ownership for Deebo, or?
No, I have it pretty close between Deebo and Kittle. I just think Deebo's more comfortable. Let's see. I think I have Deebo in the high 20s. I have him 28%. Kittle in the low 20s. Kittle at 20%. So, yeah, I think. There's some Eli Mitchell's getting some. I got him in the teens somewhere, 14% for Eli Mitchell.
Yeah, that makes sense. I just think it's by far and away Deebo. Like I think it'd be like 60%.
Kind of the complication is that even though it's possible in this field to play like 3 tight ends, a lot of people aren't going to want to do that. Just because 3 tight ends, come on.
Boomers aren't doing that.
The other thing to remember is we're a few weeks removed from a couple of the massive Kittle games, and I really think, like I was just looking at his box score, like if you put his Cincy game like in week 18 or 17, when he had 13 catches, like people are jamming him. And honestly, same with Eli Mitchell. Like he had just kind of an empty calorie, 21 carries, 85 yards, 0 catches game in week 18. Like that front of mind stuff really affects this. And people just have in their mind, like Deebo gets it done every week.
Deebo.
Doesn't matter the quarterback, if it's running, whatever, he gets
the full season perspective too. Like you think back, Deebo, Davis kind of said it yesterday that like, Deebo and Kupp are like these dudes. Like if you had them, you won money this year. Boomers care about that stuff. Like he was a league winner for the full season.
Yeah, that's who I had as like the 2 like locked and loaded like wide receivers. There were 3 really, with Devontae being the other one, right? Like, so those are your real 3 wide receivers that you're not gonna not want to jam in there, right?
Yeah, the other thing I should mention on San Francisco is that they do have a fair amount of fade as well. Like I have 35% fade. So I have Deebo getting 43% of the non-fade ownership, which maybe you also think is too low. But there's like, you couldn't have a 60% Deebo counting the fades because I have a 35% fade on San Francisco, which is way lower than you would expect based on their odds to make the Super Bowl and even their odds to make round 2. Like they have a 41% chance to make round 2, but and the Cardinals have a 36% chance. I have 35% of the field fading San Francisco and 53% of the field fading the Cardinals. 30% chance for Las Vegas to play in round 2. I have 60% of the field fading them, again, compared to 35% for San Francisco. San Francisco, very popular upset pick, fun to play both sides of that game. So I think you're going to have, lower than expected fading, but, that still gets you pretty. So anyway, so this could all, like, if the fades are more in line with their actual odds to advance, that would potentially lower Kittle's ownership even more.
Yeah.
Kittle might go pretty under-owned here, and Mitchell might as well.
I think Mitchell at 14% from that perspective might be a little aggressive if you got them as a fade, only because like if you're betting on one of these guys, you're betting on the running as a running back pick, you're betting on them actually winning the game, kind of in a sense, right? From a strip perspective.
But a lot of people are willing to do that. They're kind of the popular upset, I think.
Yeah. Which is interesting because the Cardinals should be getting a little bit more respect as an upset pick, I think.
There's a lot of these teams like the Niners, I think, that have multiple pieces. Not a lot, but there's a few that have multiple good pieces, but they're underdogs and they have reasonable fade percentages, like Pat said, where basically you can pick whatever you want to do and it's going to be somewhat contrarian. Like there's not going to be anything that's like a clear chalk on the team. Like Tampa, Tampa's obviously favored in the first round. I don't know. Pittsburgh is another example, but they're like a really high fade percentage, obviously, as a 7 seed. There's a couple. The Raiders are another one you just mentioned, Pat. There's a couple where, like, if you want to play like their best player, you're going to get them at a reasonably low percentage still.
Yeah.
So, by the way, we aren't because there's some confusion in the chat. These aren't actually bad plays. These are good plays, but the lineup itself will be like duped 50 times, and it won't be a good lineup. But these are all like very good plays. In some ways, they're I don't know that everyone's the optimal play, but they're pretty close to the optimal.
Close to the best play, close to the best plays.
What you guys are saying is giving me flashbacks to cash game week, and I'm trying to move on from this, and now we're just building a cash game lineup for the FFPC contest.
Yeah.
All right, who's our last flex here?
This one is one that like Pat, Blair, and Blair had to like put my head on right for, because I initially had Amari Cooper here. But they were able to talk me into Ezekiel Elliott. Part of it is just because there's been quite a few island games that the Cowboys have been on, and man, Zeke has looked bad. Like Tony Pollard with plantar fasciitis has looked better and has more burst than Ezekiel Elliott, and Amari Cooper has been the one really catching a lot of these touchdowns in island games, in big moments. Gallup tore his ACL, and we just sort of see Lamb really not doing as much as you'd expect. And so that's why I had Amari in there initially, if only because if you wanted a pass catcher, that's who you'd go with. But they both got my head on right, like talking about Zeke, because he does project well. People are always optimistic about Zeke for some odd reason. And that sort of makes sense from a Cowboys perspective for Zeke here.
Yeah, and I think the thing with the Zeke one is this is almost just like capitulation, right? Where people don't really know. They don't have their jam, and everyone's going to probably have their own flavor. But overwhelmingly, I do think Zeke will pull away, even though there's going to be people who prefer Lamb or people who take shots on Dak, seeing if they can get.
This is another team like the example I just was trying to give, even though they are favored and they're not really a high fade percent, but like it's so spread, you can just pick your flavor, like you're saying, Pete. But people are picking them to get upset too. So,
I think with people picking them to be upset, I think that even boomers might think that Zeke is kind of gross, and there aren't really a lot of attractive plays on this team. I think we might see a higher Dallas fade percentage
or Dallas defense, and maybe play Damian Harris instead of Pate's defense.
Yeah, but then you're getting really kind of off the boomer opto, right? Because like not a lot of people are going to be comfortable putting in Harris.
I don't know about that.
That's I think that. No, I agree with Hasan that the most popular lineup won't have a Dallas fade in it. But but I also agree with Blair that the Dallas fade will probably be more popular than is like correct for their optimal for their chances of advancing. Mm-hmm. So and I have that to some extent already. I have them 13% faded. LA, who has really not that much better chance of advancing, 64% to play in round 2 compared to 59 for Dallas. I have them at 4%. Cincinnati, who's somewhat better at 70% to make round 2, I have at 6%. Buffalo, who's 64% to make round 2, I have it 6% as well. So, over twice as much or
Basically
over 3 times
double,
as much.
yeah.
Yeah.
Dak steals some. I mean, Dak's gonna have a little bit of ownership. I guess some of those other teams have a QB stealing some too. But
Pat, who do you have, or what do you have Lamb and Cooper at percentage-wise?
I have them fairly close, but that might be one I need to adjust. Oh, by the way, I think I bumped Debo up to 36, Mitchell down to 8, and Kittle down to 18. Does that seem more in line with where you guys think it'll go?
Yeah, that feels a little bit better.
Okay.
Ayuk should be at like 2 or 3%.
I have them at 2. Yeah.
That's perfect.
I have
You
Gould
got
at
Robbie
14.
Gould at 14, which seems maybe a little high, but
that's off fade.
It could go to the fade and the kicker, but in total, I have 35% fade. That feels right to me. I don't know. Maybe I have the kicker.
No, that's correct. From an implied, that lines up a little bit better with their money line odds actually.
Also, I should mention, so we have posted in the Ship Chasing Discord Google Sheet with Pat's updated ownership projections. So if you guys are YouTube members, you can get access to that. It's a pinned comment there in the Ship Chasing Discord. You just become a YouTube member, and that will unlock the channel within the Discord as well. Who are our wide receivers here, Hasan?
Did you want just on Dallas? Real quick. I had Zeke at 30%, Lamb at 25%, Schultz at 13%, then Dallas D at 11, Dak at 9, Cooper at 8, and that goes to like 2s and 1s for everyone else. But
I think
you think there's a bigger gap between Zeke and CD?
No, that I was just going to say that feels really right to me because I do think some people will just think Zeke is gross enough that CD's right there with him.
Or Amari, like Amari's been the one like really catching a lot. Yeah, Schultz could be another. Like that's the issue. Is kind of like what Ben was saying. Like ownership here is really flat.
Yeah,
and
I think Amari will get squeezed because Schultz is easy, but Amari it's like, well, if I'm going to play Amari, I'll play Lamb because Lamb's not going to be the chalk. So you're not like,
but how many people got burned on Lamb just like with his multiple 3 for 18 or 3 for 66 or and like. Even in week 18, he went like 2 for 65 and nothing, right? So it's just sort of like he's sort of been kind of mid, right? Like he hasn't been great.
Yeah. All right.
The wide receivers, these were just locked. I mean, Cooper Kupp and Devontae Adams, like
lock it in.
Like the two that were just so. Sorry, you were saying, Matt?
Well, I want to pull up the ownership of these guys, and you let me know if I'm too low. I have Cooper Kupp at 88%.
Yeah, it feels low.
And I have Devontae Adams at 80%.
That also feels low.
Those feel very right to me.
Yeah, early in the week I thought those felt low. Though. As we go, I feel like those are totally fine, or maybe even high on Adams. Like people are going to play Aaron Jones. It's not that crazy.
A little.
I think Aaron Jones will be less than 5%.
Yeah.
Rodgers maybe 10.
Yeah.
I think this is about right for Adams.
Rodgers is like not a good play, right? Because he doesn't get the fourth game. Terrible. You're a dog to Adams if you go to the Super Bowl with them anyway. He brought, so much of the offense goes through Adams that I think Rodgers was 10% last year.
Yeah.
And I have him right around the same. I actually have him a little less because I think there's a few more quarterback options this year.
I brought this up in my article, but if you played out the playoffs 100 times, would you expect Adams to be the top scoring Green Bay Packer 80 times out of 100?
Oh, yeah.
Probably not.
Well,
but it's still hard to
probably
get
higher, dude.
No, probably not. But in the scenarios where it was.
Do you know how numbers work?
Yeah, I do. I was actually trying to create a Monte Carlo for this.
Higher.
I was trying to create a Monte Carlo for this. But I'll be honest, is like I do think that like from the smaller sample size, like I see them like really leaning on Adams here. Like you're not going to see this like bullshit to Alan Lazard and MVS and crap like that. Like they only get 3 games. Like, no, they're gonna they're gonna prioritize the shit out of Adams here, man. Like he becomes a goal line back in some of these situations. And Ben, you know this. Like
It's
you've
a fair
written
point.
about it.
It's a fair point.
The reason I agree with the sky high ownership too is these guys feel good regardless of the scenario, right? You say they go to the Super Bowl. All right, I want Adams and Cup. You say they get knocked out in a high scoring game. Well, they're going to be the engine for the offense and I'll still just bank those points. Like you feel comfy no matter what happens to the Packers or the Rams when you put these two guys in.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's why I picked them in all of our lineups this week, and I'm making it a point to pick them in every lineup on all 5 of our shows this week.
Well, the other thing about the whole is Adams 80% optimal if you run it 100 times or whatever? Obviously not, but like you're gonna be right such a low percentage of the time when you pick Lazard. Because Lazard is optimal in like some percentage of those. So is MVS. Like maybe one of the tight ends is in a one and done type of scenario. Like AJ Dillon. Yeah, AJ Dillon probably has way more than he's going to be played, but it's like you're going to be wrong a lot. So I think like relative to the other guys who are actually going to get played on this team, which is very few people, it just feels comfortable. Like, who's going to even beat me? Like we're all going to win with Adams, we're all going to lose together. It doesn't matter.
No, I think that's right. Like even though you admit Adams is not you wouldn't say Adams is a good play at 80% ownership, like necessarily, but he is. I mean, who else are you going to play?
Yeah. In my first pass, I initially had Aaron Rodgers as the quarterback just because I just had flashbacks of people talking about Lazard and stuff. But like now, the more I thought about it, the more I was like, what am I even doing here? Like, why am I trying to make this work?
The issue with Rodgers as well is when you have the bye, you are, and especially with the way the AFC sets up this year, you're so likely to be facing a team in the Super Bowl that has a quarterback that's playing an additional game and doesn't have a Devontae Adams type player necessarily. I mean, like obviously Mahomes has Kelsey. Last year it was Kelsey and Brady that was sort of optimal because you had the extra game from Brady from the NFC. But I mean, if the Packers make the Super Bowl, I mean, you can get Rodgers in the Super Bowl getting the 2x game that, he doesn't hit Adams for whatever reason, and he really separates from Adams because in the Super Bowl, all of his points go to other guys. But it's just so likely that you would see Adams with Mahomes, Adams with Josh Allen, Adams with the quarterback from the AFC, Joe Burrow. Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of scenarios where you have Rodgers going in and you're like, I'm a huge dog because I'm going against Burrow Adams. I'm going against Mahomes Adams. I'm going against Allen Adams. You're a huge dog, right? So I have Rodgers at 8%. He was at 12% last year. I think the fact that you have Burrow, Burrow's going to catch some ownership. He's very exciting. I mean, the recency bias thing really works in his favor. Mahomes, I think, is more interesting, as I mentioned, just because of the Kelsey stuff. And you get the 4th game with Mahomes, which is really big. And then Allen, I think, will still be the chalk quarterback. So his ownership I have down from where it was last year, but still Rodgers just a little bit lower.
L. Gumner says you don't think teams are going to try to take away Adams, buddy. They've been trying to take away Adams for about 4 years.
How many years?
Like, here's the thing. Here's the thing about Adams, right? He is the bad matchup. He is the one who knocks, right? Like this is not you can tell your entire defense like, okay, we're gonna concentrate on this one guy, and Rodgers is still gonna throw it up to him. He's still gonna come down with the ball.
And it's not even necessarily like throwing it up. In some respects, it is, but like so much of what they do, we can sit here and visualize it. Obviously, like it doesn't matter if you're bracketing him or whatever. You can't put a defender out of bounds, and they're going to throw the back shoulder, and Rodgers is going to put it out of bounds, and Adams is going to stop. I think the time is going to be impeccable, and he's going to reach over the sideline with his feet in bounds and make the catch. How the fuck do you defend that? I mean, so much of what they do is not even defendable, really.
Ben, it's through prayer. It's through prayer. They shouldn't be playing on Sunday. They shouldn't be playing on Sunday. They should be fucking going to church.
Sam has a good comment about Rodgers saying you can get a Titans Super Bowl, and then you can also get a Case Super Bowl, and then you have the Hill Kelsey side of that Mahomes. So, and that's a good point. Maybe if he was 12% last year, maybe he still comes in around 10. Maybe I've got that like a couple percentage too low.
But I also think this comment from Sam is very instructive of like how you should be thinking about your decisions. Like, you can't just say, I want to play Rodgers because it's a leverage spot. You have to backtrack and think, in which scenarios could this actually work out? And so maybe
Titans is a great one. Yes.
Yeah.
Completely agree.
And I think the same with the, the cup fade. Like, you probably want to have a decent amount of Kyler in cup fades, just thinking through, how do you benefit if you are
not
right
exclusively,
on your
but yeah, I think
not
you
exclusively.
You want to think about that. Yeah.
All right, go ahead, Hasan.
No, I was just gonna say, because that Titan Super Bowl point does bring us into this next guy, the big dog. There's a lot of excitement here about him. Mike Vrabel's been trying to walk it back a little bit, but the fact that they get one extra week to evaluate him, his health, and to see if he's cutting and everything, like, I think that Derrick Henry is gonna come in, not super owned, but like comes in like as the most popular Titans play.
Me too.
Sorry, you said Derrick Henry, right?
Derrick Henry, the big dog.
Good,
Yeah,
I put him on the cover, and that would have been bad if he didn't.
No,
make
it's for sure. It's the big dog.
Yeah, is there anything even else that needs to be said? I mean, running back super weak, and he's the big dog.
Yeah, and he's just coming back, man.
I
How low
think
would
his ownership have to be for you guys to want to play him.
Yeah. I tried to pick him last night and they wouldn't let me, Blair. I was actually at the point where I was considering picking him, but I got told to take my big dog.
I mean, I think if he was a coin flip, like with AJ Brown, ownership wise, then I would want to kind of match the field on my split exposure.
And that's where I'm heading with it. I think it's going to be closer to a coin flip. I think I have 49, 40, something like that. Because, it's not like Fournette. With Fournette, we are definitely going to get the Arians quote. We're going to get the blurbs. We're going to get, all the new stuff. We're going to get like stuff every day this week. We already had, he's practicing. He's designated to return. You're going to get the one tomorrow. You're going to get the one Friday. You're going to get on Saturday. He's going to get activated. And people are, oh, yeah, okay, let's go. So you're not getting any of that buzz with Henry. Obviously, people are excited talking about him a little bit, but
I think the bigger element is everyone wants to play Tennessee to lose. Like, everyone is really sort of over leveraging on like playing Cincy through Tennessee, and that's my upset play. That's true. If I pick the Raiders to win, now I'm going to have the Raiders go all the way to the conference champion. Like, Tennessee is not even there, and I mean, I was pointing out with Sam's comment on the Rodgers stuff. Is like I kind of just pushed that aside as well. But the Titans can make the Super Bowl. All they got to do is win 2 home games, and they've beat a lot of these teams. I mean, convincingly, or in the last couple of years, they beat a lot of the other good teams in the AFC, and no one wants to believe in them. But if they go to the Super Bowl, Derrick Henry is very likely to be their play, right?
Yeah.
AJ Brown's the better play in one game in a small sample, but Henry's going to scoop up TDs in that scenario if they go to the Super Bowl.
And I do agree with that thesis. Like, if running back was a little bit stronger this year, I could see it just being a dead heat between AJ Brown and Derrick Henry. But I mean, it is like, you can go through all of these players on these teams and like, who's the running back on their team that you're passing over? Like, they're just not super attractive options, and people still fucking love Derrick Henry. Like, I mean, if we get, like you said, Pat, if we get any kind of positive news or assurance on him, like, he's going to be a smash for people.
Yeah, I agree. And it sounded like he was close to being back for week 18 even. So I think there's already, some excitement about him.
Yeah.
I expect there will be some more separation.
Guys,
between
can you
these guys?
Can you believe that we're gonna get even on all this Derrick Henry, getting smashed on all this Derrick Henry by playing him in this tournament?
Well, it's there.
It's inevitable. We are trending that way. We're gonna end up overweight on Derrick Henry.
Yeah,
and he's gonna score a ton of touchdowns. You watch.
They're normally
Ben,
they
you're gonna
force
like
our
the
hand.
story I told, buddy. you wait till you hear that story I told about Derrick Henry.
I'm scared. Yeah. I do think if it's even, we're gonna have plenty of Derrick Henry this year. All right.
Can we close with a little story time? I'm not gonna read the whole story.
Oh yeah, let's hear the story.
Okay.
In an Irish accent, please.
Hang on. I gotta pull it up. Because this I did like a whole bracket, but I'm not going to read that. I just want to read let's see, what was it? Chapter 5. Patriots try to run on the Titans, but the Titans beat them at their own game, smashing the Patriots run funnel with Derrick Henry. Henry faders are insta-dead as he goes for 140 yards and 2 touchdowns in his return. How you doing, Ben?
That's actually pretty
I grabbed
good.
my blanket. I'm tucked in.
Such good usage of insta-dead.
It's an interesting story.
I was so caught up trying to grab my blanket that I didn't even listen to what you read. What did you say?
Don't worry, it's in the Discord.
Yep. All right, who's our final running back here, Hasan?
This one for me was Joe Mixon, if only because he absolutely crushed the Raiders the last time out. 30 carries, 120 something yards, 2 scores, no catches, but that's kind of been the story of Joe Mixon. I mean, it's just really difficult, right? Like we've discussed how gross running back is. The fact that the Raiders shade as a run funnel, and the fact that Mixon sort of is, he was rested in week 18 for this very reason. Like I can see a lot of people just being like, he is like the RB1, and then just sort of clicking him in and then moving on with their lives. Like I think it would be like that's the way they want to play Cincy. So because if you're playing a Bengals victory, you're gonna go through Mixon, and Zach Taylor shown a proclivity to just sort of establish the run, regardless of game situation. It just so happened that the most recent game that we saw Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase was when they were forced at throwing to Chase, and then Chase just does what Jamar Chase does, right? And that sort of sideline Mixon. But Mixon has seen a lot of work, and so I think a lot of people would feel a lot more comfortable with Mixon. I can see people be more iffy on Jamar or Higgins because the other one exists. Like you're feeling iffy about Jamar Chase because T. Higgins is there, and you're feeling iffy about Higgins because Jamar Chase exists. So Mixon is just sort of that happy medium.
Also because they're 21 and 22 and they play wide receiver, whereas you can get a nice aged running back into your lineup.
So I've seen a lot of popularity.
I have this different. I think Mixon would be very popular, but I actually think the Boomers are going to play Chase because Chase just went off. Chase, he's in the recency bias model. He's just absolutely smashing. He's obviously, he's incredibly talented.
Love the game logs.
Yeah, the game logs just look perfect. You tell yourself the story. You get the Cincinnati run. It's got to be Chase. You already have Fournette, right? So you already have your workhorse guy there. Maybe it's not Henry. Maybe it's Zeke and it's AJ Brown. But you still actually in this lineup do have a couple running backs, a couple workhorse running backs. You don't necessarily need Joe Mixon. I think Mixon will be popular because it's going to be like the gal brain, like it's really going to be like the Zoomers who are on Joe Mixon as they look at their projections and they crunch their numbers and they're like, if I go Mixon, I can get Gronk. I don't have to play Fournette. I'll go Mixon, Gronk, and play, and that 2v2 versus Fournette Chase, and that's how I think he ends up very popular. But ultimately, I think Chase will be the most popular play, and I think he'll be very popular among the Boomers.
I think the dynamic is actually pretty similar, Joe Mixon, and actually the analogy across, and we were talking about them being the NFC Cowboys too, right? Where you have Mixon is the Zeke and Chase is the Lamb and Higgins is the Amari. Like, I feel like and I can see both Mixon and Chase being similarly close to Zeke and Lamb.
Do you think that Higgins first of all, Amari might not get cut out the way I'm thinking, but you also do have a tight end there who's stealing sizable ownership from Cooper. But Higgins, I have 18%, Chase at 33%, Mixon at 30%. So there's a pretty big gap. I feel like I keep widening the gap. It feels wrong to widen the gap. Higgins is a really good player. It's not like lost on people that Higgins is a really good player.
It should be a lot closer between Higgins and Chase versus Mixon, I think.
You think it should be based on the
Mixon,
way to play it, or based on the way it'll actually come in, though?
The way that it'll actually come in, I think Mixon will be the highest owned. Then I think I can see Chase and Higgins sort of splitting, because, I mean, like we're just seeing in the chat right now where a lot of people are talking about, what Mixon scores were, and a lot of what people who love Mixon.
Now we love Mixon.
Yeah,
all right, fair enough. I mean, I do have him the highest.
Yeah, he does. Like, it just is that like a lot like. When Jamar Chase goes off the way he does, it just leaves a lot less opportunity for everybody else. But like you go back to week 15, and he had like one catch for 3 yards, right? And week 15 is the week where a lot of playoff bubble teams had their dreams die. And if you had like Jamar Chase on that week, or Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase on that week, like you're still pretty salty that you get like a combined 2 points out of these guys, right? So it's
And to me,
I don't think people think that Chase has earned that trust. Sorry, Pete, you were saying?
No, yeah, I was just thinking too. Yeah, I'm guessing because you could definitely see scenarios where even the Boomers play Fournette and Henry as their running backs, and then flip Mixon to Chase, flip Zeke to CD. Right. But I think that those kind of decisions, like you're going to see a mix of those guys, and even your ownership projections reflect that. Yes, they're separating, but barely separating. Like, there's some fragility in that to where the Boomer Opto could be flipped on those two players in both spots.
But I think the big question here is this a 3-way split, or does one of the guys pull ahead and it's like 1 and then 2 close, or is it 2 very close and then 1 cut out, which is the way I have it. But Hasan sounds like he's mixing ahead 2 split, but you could also make a case that like all 3 are pretty close to each other. And I think getting that right will be important.
I'm more how you have it, because I feel like Boomers will be so proud of themselves. You know what? Lord, give me so much strength not to play Joe Mixon. You know what? I finally have the confidence to play a wide receiver. He just happens to be one of the greatest rookie wide receivers of all time. I feel good about that. I have done my diligence. Like, if you're breaking the tie off of Joe Mixon, you're playing Jamar Chase. And I think the T Higgins play is going to be left for the Galaxy Brainers.
And just to add on to that, I don't know if you guys saw this tweet from Ben Baby today, but Higgins popped up on the injury report with a foot injury.
Oh
no,
I didn't see that.
I didn't see that. That's great.
By the way, T Higgins is an absolute superstar, right? And we're actually interested in fun ways to play the Bengals going far. Like, that sounds fun.
But I guess one way to think about it, and I've tried to think about this as I'm making these, is like, okay, what if all 3 guys were priced at $8,500 this week on DraftKings? Who you clicking?
It doesn't matter. I've lost a lot of money on DK to DFS this year. So,
Pat, literally, I think, what's ownership pushing me?
Burrow.
Yeah, like if it's let's just say it's cash. Like, you're just trying to pick the best play. Like, because I think it's like, for me, I'm like, wow, 8,500. I get sticker shock with T Higgins. I get a little sticker shock with Mixon, and I'd be like, let's jam Jamar Chase. That seems like the play to me if I got to play one of those 3 at a super high salary.
Yeah, that makes sense.
He's a dude that can score. He's got the high ADOT. He's the dude that can score, that can blow up. We just saw the 50-point game. I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
How much do Boomers look at like first round matchups? Like, Mixon has a pretty good. Dude, looks like
he does.
Matchup.
That's what I broke my tie on, was based on the fact that Oakland's Las Vegas is the Raiders are a run funnel. That's what I broke my tie on. Because if you go back to the previous game, like, he had like the 30 carries, 123 yards, and 2 scores.
He smashed them, right? Yeah.
Yeah, they just rode him to like the victory. And I can see people being like, I just want to bank those points and call it a day.
That's a good point. Pat's point made me realize, though, that with the high price thing, basically what he's arguing is that, like, if you're playing in DFS, Chase is like a guy who price doesn't matter, because he has such a ceiling that, like, literally he could be the highest price guy on the slate and still be necessary because the ceiling is massive. So there are going to be people who are like, I'm afraid of getting buried by him. And that's what, like, you're not afraid of getting buried by the other dudes necessarily. Probably should be afraid of getting buried by Higgins, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, I know I've bumped down Higgins a little bit to 16%. I brought Chase and mixing up 1% each. Because I do feel like, you can make the argument about, Chase is going to be the chalk. You can make the argument that Mixon's going to be the chalk. I mean, no one thinks Higgins is going to be the chalk.
You cannot make the argument for Higgins. You just can't. Yeah, I agree.
And he's a great play. I mean, he's a great play.
Yeah. So the Ben Baby tweet was, he was added to the team's injury report today with a foot injury. He was limited. He participated and looked okay during the open portion of media availability. Will be something to monitor tomorrow morning.
It's just that's what's going to push his.
I'm bringing him down like 2% more based on that one.
Yeah, and then there's literally another video in the tweet string of Joe Burrow firing a pass down the seam to him, and Higgins makes a stretched out catch and makes it like. So I think ultimately it seems like a non-issue.
I agree. It just you're gonna have these like a lot of hype around this Raiders Bengals game because I mean the Bengals haven't been here in a while. We haven't seen them win a game in oh my god since NBA Jam before NBA Jam in the playoffs. I don't know. Yeah. But it's just one of those things where there's going to be a lot more media coverage around this game than you think than it normally would be because of the nature of the Bengals here.
One final thing here, because this is starting to get into our gal brain territory. I would say if you have anywhere less than like 20 lineups, that Uzomah probably shouldn't be in your player pool. I don't know. Is that crazy to say?
I mean, if you're playing like Jacobs on the other side and you're playing it as kind of a fade of Cincinnati, I guess, but you're burning a pretty valuable flex spot. So why not just play, Evan McPherson or something?
His floor is literally 0.
Yeah, you're better off getting one of your kicker or defense spot or just fading the team entirely. Because the other thing is like what are the odds that Uzomah outscores? I think it's Uzomah outscores all three of the guys plus Burrow, and then outscores whoever any Cincinnati faders, right? Whether it's soft through the kicker or hard completely, who they're putting in their flex.
Ugh.
You know what I mean? So we are going to have teams that don't have any Cincinnati guy,
yeah,
and they've got instead of that they've got
Dallas
Najee Harris,
Goedert
or they've got Dallas Goedert. Yeah, exactly. So Dallas Goedert is a huge favorite to outscore Uzomah.
Because you need them to lose, and you need to get like 3 things right for that to work.
Put differently, Put differently, if you were playing DFS Showdown, Pete, like would you? How many lineups would you need to even put Uzomah in your in the lineup?
It's
right?
not a good example because I've literally played third string tight ends in 200,000 person contests, and this is what 7,000.
So it's not 1-to-1. Yeah, it's not 1-to-1.
All right, the final unveiling. Everyone already knows. Give it to
everybody
us.
knows. Yep, Josh Allen, baby.
God, yes.
This one, this one's just.
It's contactless flashes.
Don't dox me, bro.
This one, this one's pretty easy, right? Like, there's no one on Buffalo you want to click. Diggs has kind of been off. You're not clicking Singletary because his usage has been spotty. I can see people galbrating themselves into Dox and Knox. Manny Sanders is probably back. He's not going to get any love. No Beasley, no Gabby Davis. Like, there's just no other way to go. And everyone's got these guys as beating the Patriots anyway, right? So it sort of tells the same story of the lineup there with the defense of being the Patriots and Josh Allen, right? Like, so I don't know. This is one where you can see him getting 4 games and getting there, right? So I just was curious, Pat. Is this something yours was similar, or we had like a handful of like changes, right?
Yeah, I think Josh Allen's definitely the chalk quarterback. Will be in the Boomer Opto, but I don't think he'll be as owned as he was last year. I think he's 38% owned last year. I have him at 30%. Sounds like you might have him projected for more than that, but I think that you have. Tight end is deeper this year, and we should, we'll see. This one is a double tight end lineup, but if you wanted to switch that and go with Patrick Mahomes, it's a lot more comfortable. You can play Gronk, you can do a bunch of stuff to feel very comfortable about not being on Travis Kelce, and you're getting that 4th game out of Mahomes. So I think in that respect, that'll probably lower Allen a little bit. And then the other thing, we've talked a bunch of times about running back, how it's a bit weak, but Singletary is in play. I mean, Singletary has been a total workhorse here. So, and Singletary is a guy that Daigle's been talking about a lot. I think Singletary will catch some ownership, and just the fact that he helps you get a little bit more flexibility at running back so that you can go play a Chase instead of a Mixon or Gronk instead of Fournette, et cetera. I think he's actually pretty appealing in part because of what you just said. They're probably going to beat New England. Everyone's playing it that way, but that might be kind of a low scoring game. It might not be, it's going to be cold. People might not be that excited about, that one shooting out. So if you're playing someone else to the Super Bowl, then Singletary is pretty interesting.
Yeah. And my kind of thesis on, like, when Daigle brought that up on our show Monday, initially it took me back because I think he was a little inflated. But the more I thought about it, for just how the tides have kind of turned with the Bills and the way that Singletary is projected really well down the stretch, and he's delivered on that projection pretty much every single time since people started projecting him as the lead back for the Bills. And I just do think confidence on Singletary is kind of at an all-time high, which is crazy because literally 5 weeks ago, people wouldn't touch him with a 10-foot pole. Like, it was the Bills just pass every down. He's in a timeshare. They're using Breida. They're not even throwing to the running backs a ton. And now sentiment has just completely shifted on him.
Yep, I agree. All right, so in terms of where I was different here, there's really not that many spots. I mean, we already talked about the Mixon one to death. I have Cardinals as a fade with Zach Ertz flipped out. And I have Najee Harrison as the stealer. I think Deontay will be pretty popular, but I think Najee's probably the most popular. Okay. And that's it. So I think there's only a couple spots. Now there's a couple things that are like be also pretty popular. Like I think New England, I think Nick Folk will be fairly popular. I had the Cardinals D, and then the Patriots as a hard fade. Is my flip on that.
Yeah, the really hard part in coming up with a kind of a crisp boomer opto this time around, what really confounded the algos was the fact that we genuinely don't have good running backs. And the running backs we do have all got major question marks.
Is the algo just finding out looking at the best running backs? Is that the algo?
It weights it pretty heavily.
Have I identified the algo?
It weights it pretty heavily.
Please don't expose the
algo was hanging out a Cracker Barrel. I thought that was
yeah. So, go ahead.
Well, I just want to say on the running back point. So just so people know kind of where I'm at on the differences from last year. Last year, the actual ownership came in at running back 331%. So like 3.3 running backs per line. It was the same amount of flexes last year. So 3.3. I have it projected for 2.75 this year. So down like pretty considerably. I have wide receiver. Actually, I didn't realize this until just now. I have it for exactly the same as last year, 4.43. And then tight end up from 1.25 to 1.82. So I mean, tight end's way deeper than it was last year. Running backs more shallow. And I think you'll see the ownership reflect that.
Yeah. Yeah, and Matt's bringing up too some of these line movements. People projecting the Bills to just waltz on, lines down to 3.5. Same thing's happening with the Bengals stuff. I mean, that line was at 6.5 or 7. It's down to 5.
It bounced back to 5.5.
Oh, did it bounce back?
Instant buyback, yeah.
But still, I think the overconfidence in those spots is going to translate, into the contest. And it goes to, like, you don't necessarily have to Galaxy brand it. Like, if you want to flip that and play, Josh Jacobs, as your Raider, like, that's already going to be a way to get unique. And you're not that far-fetched. A third of the time you're right on the Raiders winning that game based on the implied odds.
Yeah, that one's a struggle. On the Goat District lineup, they picked Damian Harris and Devin Singletary with the idea of, like, you're kind of getting a fade on the Bills with Singletary. Allen's going to be super popular as a quarterback, most popular quarterback. I think Diggs will be more popular than Singletary. So you're betting on a one and done. And then you get Harris moving on. That's a pretty good outcome. And maybe if the Bills win, you get, Singletary winning out over 2 games, although I think you're a dog. But, it's tough, right? Because you don't think that there's going to be a lot of points scored in that game. So It's like you've kind of picked a game to shoot out that I don't think you think is actually going to shoot out, and certainly wouldn't be a great bet based on the over-under to shoot out. Not saying it couldn't happen. It could happen, but that's like the tough thing where do you have the stones to just straight up fade the Bills? And I don't think a lot of people will.
Yeah.
It's
Blair.
supposed like
Oh, go ahead.
we were hearing some stuff about weather, but it's supposed to be not. I don't know. I was just looking last night after recording a show with Shawn and mentioning it because I was like, I haven't even checked this. It's not supposed to be like any precipitation, not particularly windy,
cold.
but it's going to be like 5 degrees at game time or lower, potentially.
I took Murphy to the dog park the other day when it was 18 degrees.
But
It'll get to you. It'll get to you.
Right. Like the high for the day on Saturday in Buffalo, when I was looking, was 9. Like I know like we care more about, wind than we do rain or snow and all these things, but like we care about extreme cold, right? When we're getting down to like freezing, well below freezing, like 0 degrees, like we're talking like that's gonna affect the game, right?
I think Evan pointed out that no one thought Pittsburgh-Cleveland would shoot out last year, and that's right. But I think, think through it. Like if you are betting on that game to shoot out, then bet on it to shoot out. So maybe it's Harris Diggs instead of Harris Singletary, right? So I think you want to think through like what scenario you're actually betting on. And that's the way that the Steelers wide receiver hit in a big way, and there's actually a couple of guys. I mean, what was it? The optimal was Juju, but the winning lineup had Claypool. And then you had Chubb going on. You get 2 games out of Chubb. So I think you could play it similarly to that game. But the way to play that, wouldn't be to go both running backs necessarily. I mean, it could play out that way, but might not be the most likely outcome.
Blair, looking at these boomer optos, we talk in DFS, good chalk, bad chalk. What would you say here stands out as good chalk? What do you think, kind of jumps out as stuff is a quick fade for you?
Oh, man, that's a good question. I mean, the kind of obviously chalky spots are Adams and Kupp, and we kind of have discussed, how even though the ownership is going to be way too high, it's hard to get away from them. I think Debo could end up being good chalk because you can see him succeeding in a win or a loss. Kelsey obviously is good chalk in this contest. And then, I don't know. It's tough to find leverage spots for for a lot of these guys. Like if you don't want to play Cooper Kupp, then who on their team has the sort of upside to get there above Kupp? Maybe
I'm noticing you haven't mentioned any of the running backs.
He's dancing around the running back.
Do you see them? Are you capable of reading those names?
This is what it is what it looks like when Blair looks at.
But those guys are just so obviously bad chalk. I don't think they need mentioning.
Well, who do you play running back?
You went through everyone else.
No, I like the Singletary call, and I like the Harris call, though I think that Pat is right, not in the same lineup.
I mean, there's a path to it, but it's, I think I'd rather just go Bills fade in the Harris lineups.
Right. It's easy to see how Harris scores a bunch of touchdowns and the Patriots attempt 10 passes and the Bills can't score.
I do really think that, this is, you look at these pass catchers, these are all guys who garner a big market share of their team's offense. And that's going to be true in either shootouts or in negative game script catch-up scenarios. I do think the running backs are the most interesting. We have seen Joe Mixon get scripted out of games and not be involved. You could see just total systemic risk for the Bucs. Like they, if that trend carries over from Sunday, like they could just flop. And so I think those are the kind of spots that I'm kind of looking at, but obviously you do eventually have to play a running back, 2 of them, in fact.
Yes, yeah, I actually think you deleted his name, but I actually think Najee Harris is pretty good chalk because you can see him getting a bunch of targets in a loss. So
I also don't think he'll be like that chalky because you have to. I like how you didn't put it in as a running back.
Yeah.
Because so I have Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has a 17% chance of playing in round 2. They have a 3% chance of making the Super Bowl. According to these lines might be like, slightly outdated, but roughly. And I have them at 57% faded, which is low compared to Philly, who has a better chance of both. I have Philly at 79% faded. I have New England, who has a much better chance, 36% chance of playing round 2. They have twice the chance, but I have them at 69% faded to 57 for Pittsburgh. So just the fact that Najee's kind of fun, Deontay's kind of fun. I don't know. Maybe they won't be overplayed because they'll get split up. But at the same time, Pittsburgh will probably be overplayed unless that game shoots out.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're making jokes all the time. Pete.
This is my version of story time.
Great play.
Should we do our thing and build a lineup that's not the Boomer Opto?
Let's do it.
Oh yeah.
I don't remember. Is Willis tracking this? Is anyone tracking this? Because I don't.
I'm tracking them. I literally
okay.
registered 5 football guys as Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday for the shows.
Nice. Okay.
So we and I Men in Blacking. All I remember is I'm not picking Elijah Mitchell again because I had him in my first 2. Hasan, why don't you kick us off here?
Oh man, so much pressure. Let's just go with shit. You guys want me to go with a quarterback or what do you guys
want you to pick whatever you want to pick?
Yeah, do whatever you want, man.
God damn it! All right, I'll go with Joe Burrow. I'll go with Joe Burrow.
Ooh, okay. Now this is hot.
All right.
That was an alpha move.
Wow.
That was a Leone alpha play right there.
Joe Burrow. Blair, you're up next.
Okay. I'm gonna go against type here and pick a running back. Let's get Najee in there.
All right.
Ooh.
Wow.
All right. Gretch. No cop-outs, Gretch. I want some alpha.
No, pick whoever you
take a
want, dude.
stand. Yeah,
Pick
none of
whoever you
this. None of this Cooper Cup stuff again.
No,
Yeah,
if he wants
I
Cooper
know.
Cup, pick him.
No, but he picks him every time. Have someone else pick
That
Cooper
just
Cup.
It's hilarious. I think it's so good.
I'm trying to figure out whether I want to take Tennessee's kicker or G to lock them into a soft fade. But maybe we can just all agree to hard fade them and then I don't have to take them. I will take because I think if you're taking Burrow, you can take AJ Brown, but like I think that's a half measure. I think you just fucking fade Tennessee.
You have to, yeah.
Just pick it then.
What's that?
Just pick it.
Well, I don't really care about that kicker. I don't even know who that kicker is. Like,
But
I'm going to
Ben,
take.
we all collectively agree to soft and or hard fade Tennessee.
Yes,
You can now
thank you.
pick who you want.
I'm going to take Dalton Schultz.
Okay. This is where
I'm not buying the Blake Jarwin crap. I talked about it a little bit on yesterday's show, but week 18, Jarwin, worked his way back. It's a game where you're playing against the Eagles B team, and everyone is freaking out that Schultz routes dipped. Like, I think that was the most logical situation. Give Jarwin a few extra plays, give Schultz a few plays off. He's been a huge part of their offense. You're going from a game you didn't need to win to now win or go home situation, especially if they were to fall behind or anything. They're going to play. Like, I think the most likely outcome is Schultz routes bump back up, but people are scared off by that routes dip in week 18. I think they're overweighting that. And I mean, Schultz is like a part of this offense for sure.
We're a year and a half removed from Blake Jarwin being a thing. We're back here again.
Yeah. People are like legit scared off of Schultz's routes dipping in a week 18, a meaningless week 18 game. They won 50-20 against the Eagles, not even playing anyone. It was a preseason game.
I'm throwing out that whole game in the stats for the walk this week.
Schultz scored 2 touchdowns in that game. He still was the lead tight end. He still ran like 65% of the routes and scored twice. And people are like, yeah, but the routes weren't there. Like, come on, man.
All right. If we're playing Schultz, then instead of going, the Ertz route, I'm going to go with James Conner, opposite of Schultz in this game.
Ooh.
It's a different game.
Sorry. Yeah, I don't know why I had in my head they were playing.
Well,
there. I am still playing
NFC
James
West
Conner.
team.
Do
you
all
want
right,
Elijah?
Pat.
Oh, because you really wanted Elijah Mitchell for the third straight
And I
show.
can't. I need James Conner. I also don't want. I had to block Ertz from Pat as well.
Yes, Pat. Yes.
Stephon Diggs, let's go.
That's a really good pick.
Are we 3 for 3 on Diggs?
I think we're playing a lot.
I'm
of
sure
bigs.
we are. Yeah, of course we
Yeah.
are.
Hey. He just a conviction play. Like,
I do feel like it's picking Buffalo to win now because that first game, if it is going to be that cold, tougher, a massive.
Yeah,
one-game
I was
season.
because you talked us into the Tennessee hard fade, so we're
Yeah.
assuming that the Bengals play Tennessee, right?
Yeah.
So we need the
Yeah.
Bills to win for that to happen.
I think we're back to Hasan up top. Or
yeah,
Pat. Oh yeah, you did Diggs.
the digs. So this one is. I'm just gonna go with Aaron Jones. I think.
Wow, that's some leverage.
Holy shit! This team is
Some could say
leveraged.
this lineup is over leveraged.
I mean, this was a lot to be over leveraged.
He's gonna have to pick Cooper Cup.
Do it, Gretch. Do it.
Play
Watch
the
when
hit.
I take Cam Akers.
Oh,
No, don't do that.
guys, I did.
I didn't have a chance to ask you guys this, but Cam Akers looked bad, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he looked like a man coming off an Achilles tear too early, right?
Pat was talking. I mean, we loved our. Pat got us on Akers. Our Akers playing a lot of lineups last year, but we were talking about maybe this year again. But watching Week 18, I was like, I don't know how we can put him in.
Have you noticed that pre-week 18? I was like, we got to get 1% Akers. Look at how he's moving, and then I haven't
not
set
heard
up peep
mentioned.
stints.
The second he got onto like an actual NFL field
Like-
where people were moving at like normal speed, it's like, losing
my God.
18 yards of play is not good.
Okay, I think actually technically it's to Blair now. I think it was who he had next.
Well, we've already got too many running backs in this lineup.
Thank you.
Let's go with Debo.
How do we
Okay.
undo a pick, Blair?
No, you could have taken Kittle.
We could.
I like Debo with Schultz because part of the Schultz play is
Yeah.
like Dallas could get beat, and he's the guy in a one-game scenario where they're trailing and he catches 8 balls.
Yeah.
I actually did kind of want to take Akers, but you guys even are
Hasan.
more galaxy braining this than me.
He put
I
his
had to-
nuts on the table with Aaron Jones, and Akers was right
Yeah.
off the table.
Yep.
Gretch, you want to play the
Okay.
hits?
Yeah, well, no, I'm not playing
Sorry.
hits.
There's a
I
comment that
refuse.
Debo's another running back.
I refuse. What games don't we have? We don't have. So we have Najee. We don't have a Kansas City player yet.
Yeah.
No, we don't.
Right.
No, and we need
And
one.
we do kind of need
You
them
know the
to
play.
win.
You know the play here.
We need them to win, yeah.
Let me click it.
I mean, that's the play. But what other games don't we have right now?
Ben's
we
doing
have
the
a
thing where he picks another one and then he's going to
We
pick.
don't
Cooper
have
Kupp.
Tampa Bay.
It's like when Davis sneaks in a stack on the
Yeah.
swole cast.
He's
lineup.
like, I think Tyreek Hill's the logical play. I'm just going to go pick Cooper Kupp.
I pick neither of them and lock you guys into both.
no.
What do we have all the early? Oh, we don't have Tampa Philly.
Right.
Yeah.
No, we don't.
Oh fuck yeah! I get to
I-
pick that game.
Do the rational thing.
Mike Evans.
Yeah, that's what I was waiting
Yes.
for.
There you go.
And I will do Tyreek Hill.
What teams do we have left?
The Rams,
Rams.
the Eagles,
Eagles. New England?
New England,
The Rams, the Eagles, and
Green
New
Bay.
England.
No, we got
and
Green Bay.
Titans, who we're fading.
Yeah, Titans.
Yeah.
right.
So then, my question here for you guys is, do you want to treat Eagles as a hard fade or a soft fade?
I mean, I don't think. Are we gonna? We're gonna
Well, Cooper
not
Cup.
play
We have to have a.
Adams
Rams,
Yeah, no, 'cause-
Eagles, Titans,
and fade the Rams.
Patriots.
Not play Adams and fade the Rams.
We have to play Cooper Cup, guys.
Yeah, I think- I mean,
Then they're the Raiders. They're missing the Raiders too.
Yeah,
Oh, we
that
have
was
Burrow,
the
right?
only other question because I was gonna say I was gonna put Cooper Cup in because then now it comes down to how we want to play kicker and defense.
All right, yeah. Cooper Kupp has to go in.
Yep.
Yeah,
Well,
like he's the one guy I feel like you just can't not play. I don't know, it's so hard to not play him.
I
man.
don't mind
Gotta
if you
get
want to
one
gal
Akers
brain
lineup.
one of those fades in, but I think you're punting money to fade Adams and Cup.
Yeah.
I mean, it could work, but I don't think James Conner would be the Cardinals play because there's scenarios where Cardinals go through both teams, but I don't think that Conner is going to be the guy you want there. So
Yeah, you probably want Christian Kirk
yeah, or Kyler
or
is kinda
Kyler.
what I was
Yeah,
thinking. But,
those are the two guys who you'd want.
but it's still super thin. I mean, we should probably go Carlson, right? Because we're betting on Burrow to be in as many shootouts as possible.
Yep.
And then we already
Yes,
said
we
so it's Philly.
Don't want to bet on a last-second Raiders win, though.
Oh, that's a good point.
Do you want to go Philly or New England?
Probably
I kind of like
New England, since we're
Probably New
fading
England.
Josh Allen.
We're plenty of leverage. They're
And
going to be kind of
Singletary.
chalky, but like it's
Yeah.
fine to just eat the cold weather game and hope that they get some stuff from that.
There it is. So for those listening at home, Joe Burrow, QB, Najee Harris, James Conner at running back, Diggs, Debo, Aaron Jones, Cooper Kupp, Mike Evans, Tyreek Hill, Dalton Schultz, Daniel Carlson, New England defense. A true gal brain after focusing on the Bumo Opto for the past hour.
So good. That team's winning it all.
that, and I would also
The
say
James,
it's
the
only
James
a one
Conner
tight
pick
end lineup.
is fun.
Yep.
It is.
That's
It is a
true.
really good pick. Yeah.
James Conner and I thought Aaron Jones was a fun pick in there as well.
He is. He is.
I was hoping we got Kittle, but it's almost.
I know. I
almost
kind
too
of
much
like it better with
gal-braining.
Kittle too because
Yeah.
Schultz feels like a little thin to be the
The
tight
one,
end
the
that you
one
needed.
tight end, right? Yeah.
yeah. But
One tight end lineup, and the only guy we got there is Dalton
Schultz.
Schultz.
yeah, it's wild.
Every-
Kelsey, Gronk, Kittle, and Waller.
All of
It
them.
hurts.
And Ertz, yeah. Like every FFPC grinder is gonna be like, "What are you guys doing?"
Yeah,
Well, we're winning.
I
We're
think
winning
we
chips. I don't know
forgot
if
that
you
it
guys-
was tight end premium as it.
But
turned out.
we did a pretty good job, I think, of leveraging off those. Like Tyreek
Yeah.
over Kelsey. You like if you're gonna fade Kelsey, you're playing
Oh,
it
yeah.
because Tyreek blew up. And same with Gronk Evans, right?
It's
Connor
it-
Ertz. Same thing. We have spots where like we're saying that their teammate scores all the TDs. Fine.
Yeah, it's almost like what the thing that I'm doing is like I'm just saying that we should just have pivoted to pivot, and that's where you lose money, right? Like it almost makes like we're already so unique elsewhere that eating that chalk does nothing.
This is, I mean, it's kind of like it's a palate cleanser. You can only talk about the Boomer Opto for so long before you just need to galaxy brain the shit out of a lineup and just feel so much better.
I will say, like what I was just saying about the tight end thing. I took Schultz early. I mean, you guys crushed the picks around Schultz. I think we built a really good Schultz lineup because I'm actually
Yeah.
excited about Schultz, but it's kind of hard to because there is so many tight ends. I think this is the way you build if you want to play Schultz. Like he is like a good tight end, and the other tight ends kind of fail. Like that can happen, right?
I'd rather have Kittle opposite Schultz because to the point, like Kittle has such a high ceiling that the more games I'm getting out of San Francisco, I'd rather have Kittle because like if Kittle can have the 40-point tight end premium explosion, but they're going to do a
Really?
season run.
I'd almost
that.
flip it the other way where if I'm getting more games, I want Debo because he's going to consistently produce where one
Yeah.
game I want to hit the spike George Kittle game.
I guess I could see that too, but it's like you're kind of like on any given roll of the dice, it's like there's a lot of snake eyes for George Kittle, so it just feels more comfortable. It's
Yeah,
like, I'm betting on one game. I just want to lock in Debo, but
That's a good point.
that's a good
But again, let's go back, Pat, to how we talk about how our team's winning. In San Fran, when they win, they're running, right? But Debo mixes in as a runner, right? That's a point Shawn made to me the other day. So you actually get that benefit where, like, you're getting production probably in the wins where Kittle might have some down games in the win. Like,
Well, that's why he's the chalk, right? Because if you want to play San Francisco as a smash win, you play Eli Mitchell. If you want to pay them as like, playing from way behind, you play Kittle, or you just Goldilocks it with Debo. Hence why he's in the Boomer Opto.
Yeah.
This was fun. It's a beautiful annual tradition to have you guys on. And we had another successful year in our season-long leagues, rolling it over into the playoffs.
Very successful year.
Yeah. Blair, are you guys going to have any more content over at Rotoviz on the contest this week?
Yes, I think that Curtis is having an article publishing tomorrow. I'm also going to be talking with Curtis and Dave tomorrow on the flagship podcast. I think that'll drop Friday. So Yeah, stay tuned for more FFPC Playoff Challenge content from Rotoviz.
Nice.
For sure.
And Hasan, what about you? You heading back to the Cracker Barrel, Sizzler?
Oh man, the Ponderosa. I think one of these has a chocolate fountain, so I just got to get back there and get to it. But I will actually say, for those of you who are playing across platforms like Underdog and DraftKings and their tournaments as well, drafters, Michael Dubner has a really good playoff basketball rankings article there. That's very contrarian to a lot of the ADPs. So if you're looking to find leverage, I would strongly recommend going to Rotoviz and checking his work out.
Yeah. Definitely agree with that. I dropped that link in the Fantasy Life newsletter today. Very good article by Michael Dubner. We are, speaking of Rotoviz, we're going to be back tomorrow night with Shawn Siegele. Very excited for that. Ben and Shawn have been potting a little bit about the contest, I hear, and we're going to keep that conversation going tomorrow. So looking forward to that. Pat and Gretch, anything else here before we say goodnight?
I just saw Hasan randomly during the show bash on Australian meat pies. I just want to say, like, I went down to Atlanta for my big husky guy. Went down for, I think it was the UW Auburn opener. It was in Atlanta a couple years ago, maybe 3-4 years ago. Good buddy of mine has a wife from Australia. We went to some meat pie place in Marietta, Georgia. It was like one of the best things I've ever had in my life.
Yeah,
and I've never been able to get
awesome.
it again since there. They're incredible. And Hasan's out here bashing meat pies for some reason. I mean,
it's what they eat for the street food. Like, just imagine walking on the street, just like shoving a meat pie in your face. How decadent and depraved is that, man? That's like next level.
I've been wanting since I still
They're
remember
so
going to
good.
this thing and wanting. I've been wanting to do that since then. I've literally looked up this company in Marietta, Georgia. I might order some. Like they can ship them to you. Like,
yeah,
so I can do exactly what you're describing. I want to shove them in my face.
It is good, and I'm actually kind of jealous that we don't have it here in the U.S. Like, that's what I'm most upset about.
We did. There was a place called Tuck Shop. That was around the corner from where I used to live. And
oh, no way!
They had like a Guinness steak pie. It was like Guinness like broth somehow that they like boiled. Gets condensed, and then it was steak and mushroom. That was incredible. They had we used to get a couple pies, kale salad. It was like we probably ordered from there like 100 times, and then it closed.
But like, would you eat them on the street, just sort of like a chicken and rice, or
no? I mean,
yes, that's what they do in Australia. It's like a street food there for them.
What?
I guess, but like pad Thai street food in Thailand, like whatever.
Yeah. I know it's good. It's good. I'm just saying.
Dogs thing. Is it a Wazoo Cougars or I don't know? It must be.
I don't know. You'll explain yourself, Derek.
I don't understand the I love cats thing.
This feels reminiscent of Pat rambling about Rome.
It's a real shame to hear that.
By this comment, Evan's comment about me rambling about ramen. I've never rambled about ramen. I've spoken passionately on the subject.
Very, very distinctly. We all know you need the other egg. Like, you need the extra egg. It's very.
He's right.
See, people don't remember the points if you ramble. If you go on a diatribe, they remember.
All right, I'm on the tail end of my fourth stream today, and I need to shut this down. I appreciate you guys. We'll be back, like I said, tomorrow, 9:15 p.m. Eastern. Also, we're going to bust out the alcohol on Friday night for the 9:15 p.m. show with Leone and Dink as we wrap up our wall-to-wall coverage of the FFPC playoff contest. Love seeing you guys jump in, becoming YouTube members. If you have questions for getting that synced up, just let me know. Get you all squared away in the Discord, a very fun place to be. For Hasan, for Blair, for Pat, for Ben, who loves cats, I'm Pete. We'll see you guys next time.